Emily Parker believed she knew her marriage. 12 years with Daniel had taught her the rhythm of his moods, the meaning behind his silences, the way he hummed while brushing his teeth and frowned when bills arrived in the mail. Their life in a quiet Michigan suburb was not flashy, but it was steady: 2 cars in the driveway, Sunday dinners, inside jokes, and shared dreams that had slowly turned into routines. That Sunday evening felt no different at first. Rain streaked down the windows. The television murmured in the background. Emily folded laundry on the couch while Daniel sat across from her, scrolling through his phone. The smell of reheated pasta drifted from the kitchen. Normal. Comfortable. Safe. Then Daniel cleared his throat. It was a small sound, but Emily noticed it right away. He usually didn't interrupt the quiet unless something was funny or irritating. He said. Can I ask you something? She didn't look up yet. If it's about why we still have unmatched socks, the answer is magic. No laugh. She raised her head. Daniel had put his phone face down on the coffee table. His shoulders were stiff. His eyes weren't on her. Her fingers paused on a folded towel. What's wrong? She asked. Nothing, he said too quickly. Then, slower, maybe something. Emily sat straighter. That's not comforting. He rubbed his palms on his jeans, a habit he'd had since college when he was nervous before presentations. Promise you won't get mad? Emily felt the shift before she understood it. A quiet tightening behind her ribs. That depends, she said. Daniel inhaled, then let the air out slowly. What would you think if I said I wanted us to change how our marriage works? Her brow furrowed. Change how? He stared at the carpet. What if we opened it? The word landed hard. Emily blinked. Opened it. Yes. Silence stretched between them. Rain hit the window harder. You mean, see other people? She asked. Daniel nodded once, small and careful. I don't mean instead of you, he rushed to add. I mean, in addition. I love you. This isn't about leaving. Emily stared at him like he'd spoken another language. You love me, she repeated, but you want to date other women. And you could date other men, he said. If you wanted. Her mouth felt dry. Why would I want that? He hesitated. I don't know. Maybe because we're human. Because attraction doesn't disappear just because you're married. Emily folded the towel too tightly and unfolded it again. When did you start thinking about this? Daniel shifted. A while ago. How long is a while? He didn't answer right away. Emily felt a slow chill creep up her spine. Daniel. He sighed. Months. Months. She stood up, the laundry forgotten. So for months you've been thinking about sleeping with other people while I've been planning our summer vacation? I wasn't planning anything, he said quickly. It was just thoughts. Thoughts you decided to share now. He nodded. Why now? He opened his mouth, closed it, then said, because I didn't want to keep hiding it. That word, hiding, stung. Emily crossed her arms, holding herself without realizing it. Did you already meet someone? Daniel looked at the wall. The answer came before the words. Yes, she whispered. He turned back to her. I haven't done anything. I swear. But you met her. Yes. Her chest felt tight, like the air had thickened. Who is she? A coworker. How long? A few weeks. Emily laughed once, sharp and startled. So let me get this straight. You meet a woman at work, you start thinking about opening our marriage, and now you want to call it honesty. That's not fair. It feels fair from where I'm standing. He stood too, hands lifted slightly as if trying to calm her. I'm not cheating. You're thinking about it. That's different. Emily shook her head slowly. When did thinking about it become something we share over leftovers like it's a new hobby? Daniel swallowed. I didn't know how to bring it up. So you chose tonight? Yes. Why tonight? He paused. Too long. Her stomach dropped. Because she asked me out for a drink, Emily said. Daniel closed his eyes for a second. Yes. The word felt like a door slamming. Emily stared at him, the man she had built a life with, suddenly unsure she recognized him. And you said? I told her I was married. That's not what I asked. He opened his eyes. I said, maybe. Emily's breath caught. So instead of saying no, you came home and asked your wife for permission. I didn't say permission. You did without using the word. Daniel stepped closer. I'm trying to be honest. I could have just gone. That doesn't make this better. I know. They stood there, facing each other across a pile of unfolded clothes. You don't want me anymore, Emily said quietly. That's not true. Then why are you looking elsewhere? Because wanting someone doesn't mean I stopped loving you. Emily felt tears burn, but she blinked them back. It does to me. Daniel reached out, then stopped himself halfway. I don't want to hurt you. Her voice shook. You already did. Another stretch of silence. The rain outside turned heavier, wind rattling the window frames. Emily picked up the towel again, hands trembling. I can't talk about this right now. Daniel nodded, looking small suddenly. Okay. She walked to the bedroom and closed the door. Not slammed. Just closed. She sat on the edge of the bed, listening to the muffled sound of him moving in the living room. Her phone buzzed with a weather alert. She ignored it. Her mind replayed everything instead. Open the marriage. A coworker. Maybe. 12 years. One conversation. And suddenly the floor beneath her felt unsteady. In the other room, Daniel stood alone, staring at the door he hadn't followed her through. Neither of them knew that this single question, spoken on an ordinary rainy night, had already started to pull their marriage in two very different directions. Emily didn't sleep well that night. The rain had stopped, but her mind was stormy. She stared at the ceiling for hours, thinking about Daniel's words, the way he had said them, the way he hadn't looked at her when he said them. Open the marriage. The phrase felt like it had pulled the rug out from under her. Every small routine they had, the way he made coffee, the way she folded laundry, the quiet Sunday evenings, suddenly seemed fragile, temporary. In the mornings, Daniel acted normal. He made coffee and asked about her day, smiled at her from across the kitchen. But Emily noticed things she had never paid attention to before. The way he lingered on his phone, how he seemed restless when he thought she wasn't watching. Even when he laughed at something on TV, it sounded half-hearted. Something in him had changed, and she didn't know if it was curiosity, longing, or guilt. Emily tried to ignore it. She told herself she was overreacting. He loved her, he had said it a dozen times. He wouldn't throw everything away. She repeated it like a mantra whenever the thought of him seeing someone else crept into her mind. He loves you. He loves you. But the thought wouldn't go away. A few days later, Emily went to the grocery store. She was picking out apples when she bumped into someone she hadn't seen in years, Ryan Mitchell, her college friend. Ryan had moved away after graduation, and they had lost touch. But now he was standing in aisle 3, smiling at her as if no time had passed at all. Emily Parker, he said. Is that really you? She laughed, a little embarrassed. Ryan. Wow, it's been forever. They walked the aisles together, catching up quickly. Work, families, life in town. He remembered her favorite coffee spot, her old college habits, even her love for mystery novels. He asked questions, really listened, made her laugh in a way she hadn't realized she missed. Hey, he said suddenly, as they were checking out, we should grab coffee sometime. Like old times. Emily hesitated. Normally, she would have said no, politely and quickly. But something inside her, a mix of loneliness, curiosity, and a small spark of excitement made her nod. "Sure," she said softly. That evening, back at home, Daniel seemed distracted, lost in his phone, humming quietly. Emily watched him from across the room. She wondered, for the first time, if he was thinking about someone else. He might be. Maybe he already has. Maybe that's why he brought it up. The next day, she met Ryan at a small cafe downtown. The smell of coffee and baked goods filled the air. They talked for hours, about things that didn't matter, things that did. Emily found herself sharing pieces of her life she hadn't told anyone: how safe her marriage felt, but how trapped she sometimes felt in routine. Ryan listened. He didn't judge. He just nodded and smiled, making her feel seen. It felt comforting. When Ryan finally asked about her personal life, Emily hesitated. She hadn't meant to, but the words slipped out. "It's complicated. My husband, he's been talking about opening our marriage." Ryan's eyebrows rose. "Opening the marriage? That's bold." Emily nodded, feeling embarrassed and a little ashamed. "I don't think I can do that." "You still love him," Ryan said gently. "I do," she admitted. "Then don't let him make you feel small." Those words stayed with her as she walked home. At home, Daniel seemed different lately. Lighter, almost relieved. Emily noticed it but didn't say anything. Instead, she tried to carry on, cooking dinner, folding laundry, pretending nothing had changed. But everything had changed. She saw it in the way he smiled, the way he answered her, the way he lingered at the doorway before going to bed. One night, Emily confronted him quietly. "Daniel, did you have someone in mind when you brought up opening the marriage?" He froze, then slowly nodded. "There's someone at work. Nothing happened. I was just curious." Emily felt her chest tighten. "And now?" "I thought we agreed to think about it," he said. Emily realized something that night. He wasn't waiting for permission. He was hoping. Hoping she would say yes, hoping she would agree. Hoping she would let him go without having to leave. A few days later, Ryan texted her, "I had a great time today. Let's do it again sometime." Emily stared at the message. Her heart beat faster than it should have. She typed back, "Me too. Thanks." Daniel sat in the living room, scrolling through his own phone, smiling faintly. For the first time in 12 years, Emily wondered if they were both drifting toward someone else. She felt the strange mix of fear, guilt, and excitement swirling inside her. Days turned into a week. Emily and Ryan met again, this time for a short walk in the park. They laughed, shared old memories, and talked about dreams that had been postponed. She felt alive in a way she hadn't in years, but guilt nodded her with every smile, every shared glance. At home, Daniel tried to act normal. He asked about her day, fixed small things around the house, made coffee in the mornings, but the distance was there. Emily felt it like a weight on her chest. She wanted to talk, to ask him why, but the fear of confrontation kept her quiet. Emily began to see the cracks in their marriage. Not the cracks of anger, but cracks of desire, curiosity, longing. Daniel's unexpected request had done more than just shock her, it had pulled them into a quiet orbit of unspoken tension, questions, and silent comparisons. Every day she noticed little things. The way he smiled at a passing coworker. The way he lingered in the kitchen while she cooked. The way his hand brushed hers briefly, hesitant, fleeting, different. Emily started to question herself. Am I enough? Am I too predictable? Am I holding him back? She tried to push the thoughts away. She told herself she loved him. She reminded herself of the years, the memories, the life they had built. But the fear lingered, gnawing quietly. She noticed herself checking her phone more often, thinking about Ryan, thinking about what could happen if she let herself feel more. The tension in the house grew. Neither Daniel nor Emily spoke about it directly. Conversations were careful, polite, careful not to touch the nerve that had been exposed. The unspoken truth hung in the air, they were both aware of possibilities, but neither knew how to handle them. Emily found herself staying up later, thinking about Ryan, thinking about Daniel, trying to make sense of the storm inside her. She realized that the marriage she thought was secure was now fragile, delicate, and full of hidden emotions. Every smile, every conversation, every touch had a weight it didn't have before. And yet, despite the fear and uncertainty, Emily felt alive. She hadn't realized how much she had been living on autopilot. Daniel's request, shocking and painful as it was, had awakened something in her. Something that made her look at her own life with fresh eyes, at Daniel with curiosity, at Ryan with longing. One evening, as she folded laundry and Daniel hummed softly in the background, Emily realized the truth. Their marriage had changed. Whether for better or worse, she didn't know. But she knew one thing: nothing would ever feel normal again. And for the first time in a long time, she wasn't sure if that was entirely bad. The storm inside her had only begun. The weeks ahead would test her, challenge her, and force her to make choices she had never imagined. And Emily, for the first time in years, felt the sharp edge of uncertainty and the thrill of possibility together. She didn't know what would happen next. But she knew that the quiet, ordinary life she had once loved had been replaced with something different. Something alive. Something full of questions, tension, longing, and maybe, just maybe, a chance to rediscover herself and her marriage in ways she had never expected. And she could feel it, everything was about to change. Emily's life had entered a strange rhythm she wasn't used to. Every morning, she woke with a quiet tension in her chest. She tried to focus on work, on errands, on the small routines that had once given her comfort. But her thoughts kept drifting back to Daniel's words, to Ryan's smile, to the subtle pull of curiosity that neither man seemed to notice yet. She told herself the coffee with Ryan was harmless. Just talking. Just laughter. Just old friends reconnecting. She reminded herself that nothing had changed in her marriage, nothing had happened, and nothing would. Yet every time her phone buzzed with a message from him, her heart skipped. Ryan, I thought of you today. Emily, I thought of you too. Small words, nothing physical, but they carried a weight she hadn't felt in years. Daniel, meanwhile, was behaving strangely. He laughed more in the evenings, seemed lighter, almost distracted. Emily noticed the way he lingered in front of the window, staring at the neighborhood, lost in thought. When she asked if he was okay, he would smile, but his eyes seemed elsewhere. She knew him well enough to sense that something had shifted. His curiosity, his longing, the spark that had been quiet for so many years, it was back, but aimed in a direction she couldn't reach. One evening, Emily sat across from him at the kitchen table. The air smelled faintly of roasted chicken. The house was quiet. She had worked up the courage to ask the question she'd been avoiding for days. Daniel, about her, she began. He tensed, but didn't look up. You have someone at work, she said, trying to keep her voice steady. Yes, he admitted, slowly. I didn't plan it. I haven't done anything. Emily's hands gripped the edge of the table. And when you brought up opening the marriage, it wasn't just a thought experiment. You were hoping it would give you freedom? Daniel's eyes flickered with guilt. I thought we could explore it together. I didn't want to lie to you. She exhaled sharply. But you were already curious about her before asking me. That's not together. That's separate. He looked down, rubbing his hands on the table. I know. I know. I was hoping we could be honest, but I also didn't want to hurt you. Emily's throat tightened. Hurt. Confusion. Anger. Longing. It all swirled together. Later that week, she met Ryan again. This time, they walked through the park near her house. Leaves crunched underfoot. The air smelled faintly of pine and rain. She tried to focus on the moment, Ryan's easy smile, his attentive questions, but a part of her mind kept drifting back to Daniel. To the tension in the house. To the way her husband had admitted his curiosity without fully admitting what it meant. Ryan noticed her distraction. You seem worried, he said gently. Emily shook her head. It's nothing. You can tell me, he said. You trust me, right? She laughed lightly. I guess I do. She found herself opening up more than she had intended. About her marriage, about Daniel's request, about the feeling of being pulled in two directions. Ryan listened. Not with judgment, but with understanding. With warmth. He didn't give her answers. He didn't tell her what to do. He just offered presence, a steady attention she hadn't realized she missed. When she walked home that evening, her mind was buzzing. She unlocked the door and stepped inside. The smell of dinner lingered faintly. Daniel was in the living room, scrolling his phone. He looked up briefly, smiled, and went back to his screen. Emily's heart sank slightly. She realized that neither of them had addressed the tension fully. They were living in parallel, aware of the possibilities, but not speaking them aloud. She wondered if he had thought about her time with Ryan. Did he imagine her laughing with someone else? Did it make him jealous, or was he already seeking the same thrill elsewhere? A few days later, Emily received a text from Ryan, "Want to meet for coffee tomorrow?" Her fingers hovered over the keyboard. She typed back, "Sure." When she told Daniel she was going out for a quick errand, he didn't look up from his laptop. "Okay," he said. That casual tone, that calm, was both comforting and terrifying. She didn't know if it meant trust or ignorance. At the cafe, Ryan greeted her with his easy grin. They found a quiet corner and talked, laughed, and shared pieces of their past. Emily felt alive. She realized how much she had missed feeling wanted, seen, appreciated for more than the routines of life. She didn't cross any boundaries, but she felt the thrill of possibility. And it scared her. Back home, Daniel was waiting. He seemed distracted, pacing the living room, checking his phone, humming a tune under his breath. Emily realized she didn't fully know what he was thinking, just as he probably didn't know what she was thinking. They were both caught in a delicate, unspoken tension. One night, she confronted him again. "Daniel. I went out with Ryan." He looked up slowly. "You did?" "Yes." "Coffee." "Just coffee." He hesitated, searching her face. "Did you hide it from me?" "Yes," she admitted. "Because I didn't want to hurt you." Daniel exhaled, a long, shaky breath. "And now?" "I don't know," she said honestly. I needed to feel something outside of us for a moment." He nodded, sitting down heavily on the couch. "I get it. I do. I feel restless too." I thought about her again. Emily froze. "You did?" He nodded. "I didn't act. I promise. But I thought about it." They sat in silence, the weight of unspoken emotions filling the room. Emily realized then that the conversation about opening the marriage had changed everything. Not in the way Daniel had intended, perhaps, but in a way that forced them to see each other, to see themselves, in a new light. The quiet of the night settled around them. Emily felt a mix of fear, guilt, and longing. She realized she couldn't go back to the way things were. The spark of curiosity, desire, and self-discovery had been ignited. And Daniel, he was no longer just her husband. He was a man she didn't fully understand anymore, a man with desires and questions that mirrored her own. They were both testing boundaries, exploring emotions, and confronting truths they had long ignored. Emily knew the days ahead would be complicated. She didn't know if they would survive this period of tension and uncertainty. But she understood one thing clearly: the life they had before, the quiet, predictable marriage, was gone. Something new had started, fragile and dangerous, full of potential and risk. As she lay in bed that night, she thought about Ryan's smile, Daniel's words, the tension in the air, and the strange mix of fear and excitement coursing through her veins. Her life, her heart, and her marriage were no longer simple. And she knew, deep down, that the weeks ahead would test everything: love, trust, loyalty, and desire. Emily didn't know the outcome, but she understood this: she had crossed a line, Daniel had crossed a line, and their marriage would never be the same again. And somehow, she felt ready to see where it would lead. Emily came home early that Thursday, her head pounding from a long day at work. She decided to cut the afternoon short, telling herself she needed a break, some quiet before the storm she'd been living in all week. She parked in the driveway, expecting Daniel's car and their quiet house. There was another car. A sleek blue sedan she didn't recognize. Her stomach clenched. She froze for a moment, gripping the door handle. Something didn't feel right. Inside, she heard voices, soft laughter, the kind that didn't belong in their kitchen. Her chest tightened. Emily's mind raced. Who is that? She stepped inside quietly. The living room looked normal, but the sounds were coming from the kitchen. She moved closer, her heart hammering. Daniel stood near the counter, talking to a woman Emily had never seen before. She was tall, confident, wearing a business jacket. They weren't touching, but they were close, leaning in slightly as they spoke. Daniel saw her. His face changed instantly, color draining. "Emily, you're home early," he said, trying to sound casual. Emily's eyes didn't leave the woman. "And you are?" The woman straightened, clearly uncomfortable. "I'm Claire. I work with Daniel," she said quickly. Emily nodded slowly, letting the silence stretch. "In my kitchen?" Claire's cheeks flushed. I should go," she said, grabbing her bag. The door closed softly behind her, leaving Emily and Daniel in the quiet house. Emily turned to Daniel. "So, this is her." He exhaled, pacing slightly. "She just stopped by to go over a project. Nothing else." Emily's hands were on her hips now. "Nothing else?" "Daniel, you invited her here. You let her into our home. Into our space." "I didn't plan this," he said, looking desperate. "I swear, Emily, nothing happened." Emily shook her head, a mix of hurt and clarity washing over her. She realized the truth: Daniel's curiosity, his flirtation, the conversations they'd been having about opening the marriage, it wasn't theoretical anymore. It was real. It was in her home, in her space, in her life. Later that night, Emily sat in the living room, the quiet pressing in. Daniel sat across from her, avoiding her eyes. She decided it was time to be honest too. "I need to tell you something," she said. "I went out with Ryan." Daniel's head snapped up. "You did?" "Yes." "Coffee." "That's it." "Just coffee," Emily said, feeling the weight lift slightly by admitting it. "Did you hide it from me?" he asked, a tremor in his voice. "Yes," she said. "I didn't want to hurt you. I didn't want to make things worse." He swallowed, nodding slowly. "And now?" Emily took a deep breath. "Now? I don't know. I just needed to feel something. Something outside of us. Something different." Daniel looked down at his hands, twisting them in his lap. "I understand," he said quietly. "I feel restless too. I thought about her again. Claire." Emily froze. "You did?" "Yes," he admitted. "But I didn't act. I promised. I was curious. I was hoping we could be honest with each other." The weight in the room was heavy. They both sat silently, realizing their marriage had changed in ways they couldn't ignore. The conversations about opening their marriage, the small flirts, the curiosity about others, it had all led to this moment of raw truth. Emily felt a strange mix of relief and fear. She realized that both of them had crossed emotional lines. Not physical ones, but lines that tested trust, loyalty, and the foundation of their marriage. "I don't want to lose you," Daniel said finally, looking up at her. His eyes were filled with emotion. Emily's voice softened, though it shook. "Then stop looking for ways to leave without walking out the door." Tears filled Daniel's eyes. He reached for her hand but stopped halfway. She let him keep it hovering, neither pulling away nor fully embracing. It was a fragile connection, like a bridge over a chasm. They didn't resolve everything that night. There were no grand declarations, no instant solutions. Just honesty, a fragile, trembling honesty. They talked quietly about boundaries, about feelings, about the danger of curiosity and desire. Every word was careful, measured, yet raw. Emily realized something important. Daniel's unexpected request, his flirtation with someone else, her connection with Ryan, it hadn't destroyed their marriage. It had exposed weaknesses, yes, but it had also forced them to see each other clearly, without illusions. She understood that their marriage wasn't about routine anymore. It wasn't just about comfort or familiarity. It was about choice, choosing each other, choosing honesty, choosing to face the truth of desire, curiosity, and longing. For the first time in months, Emily felt clarity. Fear still lingered, yes. The thought of Daniel with Claire, the thought of herself with Ryan, still pressed against her mind. But clarity came with understanding. Their marriage was no longer simple, and it didn't need to be. It could survive, even grow, if they were willing to confront the truth together. In the days that followed, they began small. Daniel focused on transparency, telling Emily when he saw Claire, when he felt curiosity, when he needed to confront his own feelings. Emily did the same, sharing her thoughts about Ryan, about the longing she sometimes felt, about the fear that threatened to take over. It wasn't easy. There were moments of jealousy, moments of anger, moments of quiet doubt. But there were also moments of tenderness, long looks, shared laughter, small touches that reminded them why they had fallen in love in the first place. Emily realized that desire wasn't the enemy. Fear wasn't the enemy. Silence was. The truth, messy, complicated, emotional, was what had the power to either break them or bring them closer. One night, as she lay in bed beside Daniel, she felt the weight of the past weeks pressing on her chest. But alongside that weight was a spark of hope. They had confronted the lines they had crossed. They had named the desires, the curiosities, the fears. And they were still together. Emily reached for Daniel's hand in the dark. He grasped it, holding it tightly. No words were needed. The connection was enough. She realized that their marriage had changed, yes. It had been turned upside down. But perhaps, in this upheaval, it had found a chance to be reborn, stronger, clearer, more honest. As sleep finally came, Emily allowed herself one thought, maybe the unexpected request, the heartbreak, the curiosity, the tension. It hadn't been the end. It had been a beginning. A beginning that would test their love, their trust, and their choices in ways they could not yet see. But for the first time in a long time, Emily felt ready to face it. The storm had passed, but the air was charged, alive, full of possibility. And she, for the first time, felt that they might just be able to navigate it together. The marriage had been shaken. But it was not broken. It was waiting for honesty, for courage, for love reborn. And Emily knew, deep in her heart, that this was only the beginning of the story they were meant to write.